The governing New Patriotic Party will on Sunday converge in conference to effect changes to its constitution. Among the proposed 38 amendments is the push for the party to hold Congress to elect a presidential candidate 2 years before the 2024 general elections. Proponents of the proposal says the move aims at providing the party time to deal with likely cracks, disaffection expected to emerge after the contest. But the Member of Parliament from Praeso in the Eastern region, David Opokwansa, says the proposal will rather destroy the party ahead of the elections. He spoke earlier with my colleague Araba Kumson.
Various proposals that have come from several interest groups within the NPP is good for our party, it's good for the forward movement of the NPP. I strongly believe that electing a presidential candidate 2 clear years before an election, while the party is in power, is one that do not sound well, and that is not good for the NPP or any other political party whilst in power. Because if you elect a presidential candidate, the person enjoys some level of power. I mean, the attention gradually shifts towards the presidential candidate. The presidential candidate would have policies and programs that he would want to influence on the political party that is serving in power. That, for me, clearly contradicts with the mandate that the Ghanaian people have given to the presidential candidate. Resolving cracks should not take 2 years to do that. I mean, if somebody has issues, the person must be forthright with himself, and I appreciate that in political party organization, the aim is to win political power. So if you were to go for an election and you lose, I expect that the leader or the person who wins must be magnanimous enough to, as it were, bring the others on board. And if you also lost, you also must appreciate that the decision of the delegates is that the person who won must lead. And you have nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can.
Now, let's broaden the conversation and speak with Dr. Asa Asante, who is a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana. Also joining me for this conversation is Dr. Kobe Mensah, who is a political communication strategist, also with the University of Ghana Business School. I'm grateful, gentlemen. I'll start with you, Dr. Asa Asante. As the NPP deliberates over positioning the party properly for 2024, now, many analysts have expressed diverse opinions on what exactly the party should be focusing on. The party itself has 38 proposals it will be considering come Sunday. But before we tackle the specifics, generally, what should be the party's focus on Sunday? Hello, Dr. Asante. Kindly unmute for me.
Yeah, good afternoon, Aisha, and good afternoon to your viewers. I believe that the party has reflected upon what they want to do, and they've taken time to tease out very important things that affect the party fortunes. And I'm sure out of that exercise that they have spelled out that about 38 proposals they want to handle. I believe that all in all, it should be able to inure to the benefit of the party. It is important that if you go through any major election, there's a need for self-introspection. And once they do that and they believe that this is the way to go, why not? But what people like us also have to say is that you have to, whatever decision you want to make, you want to tie it to the needs of the people. That should be very paramount. You should be able to focus so much about what the people are saying. And now if you look at this country, people are talking about standard of living, hardships, and all that. The party must also, at the back of their minds, should be able, that in spite of all that they want to do, must also listen to the voters, the people, and then see that they can meet them halfway. For me, you can change, rebrand the name, the party, make all the nice things. But if the whole idea does not contribute to helping the ordinary man to survive and live a meaningful life, I'm afraid, then you are going to have difficulties when it comes to elections. And I'm sure that they are not oblivious of this fact, and they work along these lines.
I'll put the same question to you, Dr. Kobe Mensah. What are your expectations as they meet this Sunday?
Hey, thank you, and afternoon to Dr. Sasanti, my own good friend, and hello to everybody. Well,
Kobe.
as Asa has actually said, obviously parties actually take stock, of their own, internal organization, the dynamics, within the party political system, etc. And I think that one of the key things, perhaps the party should actually realize, is that it looks like Ghana is no longer going to be in a state of absolute power in one political party's hands. A clear example is what actually transpired in the last election, which the parliament, the power in parliament has actually been shared between the incumbent and the opposition party. So in that case, how do you then strategize going forward, making sure that there are quite a lot of changes that are actually happening within the party political system generally itself? And then, of course, within your own party, there's an increasing number of young people getting into the political system. There's an increasing awareness of voters about their needs, about their rights, and about the responsibilities of political parties. How do you factor that in your structure and make sure that the party is very responsive to these dynamics? I think these are some of the thoughts that should occupy them in whatever proposal they put together.
Dr. Asasante, let me come back to you. And we know among the proposed amendments to the NPP constitution is the election of flag bearer 2 years before the elections. And then there's also the bit about changing the party's name from New Patriotic Party to National Patriotic Party. Let's begin with electing a flag bearer 2 years before the elections. How does this come across to you?
When you look at their constitution, what they have is that when they are in opposition, then they elect their flag bearer 2 years before time. And I'm sure events of recent time have given them a clue as to what they can do to improve their political fortunes. Strictly speaking, when you are in power and you are going to elect your flag bearer just 1 year to elections, it becomes difficult for you to organize yourself. As Nkrumah put it succinctly, that organization decides everything. So you need to be able to have a strategy, and that strategy is born out of some of these issues, such as what? Who will lead the party? You organize yourself. Remember that election campaign is a difficult one, and then more difficult is the strategies that you map up in order to restore power or hold on to power. And these are all pointers that you need to get them right in order to get the basics right. So earlier election will help the party to be able to mend all the differences and be able to map up a strategy that they can, they can resonate with the people. The people will hold on to it, believe it, and then pursue them aggressively in order to win power. So I believe that the 2 year period is quite a good time for them to be able to all manner of things that will help them to be able to prosecute a very effective campaign and also win power. So for me, I believe it's a good thing that they are doing.
Now, the party itself explains that it will help them mend the cracks that may emerge after picking that flag bearer. Now, Dr. Kobe Mensah, in terms of vote-wise, or let me say the party's fortunes in the upcoming elections, how positive or otherwise will this decision affect the party?
Thank you. I think I would differ slightly from Asa's position. The reason being that if a political party, decides to go into leadership contest 2 years, especially party that is in power, suddenly you are going to create, parallel structures. And I agree with the first, I think the play that you did, there was a voice that you played that was talking about if you have any cracks, you should be able to amend it even within a short period of time. That's what an efficient party does. I have a position that our political parties are flawed in terms of their structure. Now, if you go elsewhere, the power does not reside in the hands of the flag bearer, but in the hands of the executives, as in the party chairman, the party, a general secretary. They run the political party. And so whether the party candidate is selected a week to election or 6 months to election or 2 years to election, the party is always prepared. Now, mind you, you have a president, and when you elect a flag bearer, there are people in administration who will be jostling for positions in the next election, in the next government, just in case they win. And so they're not going to pay 100% attention to the national duty. And so when you create that particular position, you have parallel structures that is going to actually affect your performance in government and affect your fortunes, because people will see through that you're not interested in governing, but you're interested in winning elections. So for me, the struggle for the political parties, especially with the NPP's position where they say, if you're in government, select your leader just about 11 months to elections. If you're in opposition, 2 years to election, tells you that you're struggling to find a very suitable structure. Why? Because the parties are wrongly set up. Leadership should not be in the hands of the flag bearer. It should be in the hands of the chair. And it doesn't matter when you select your candidate. You should be able to win elections if you're efficiently set up. So definitely it's not a good plan for them to think about selecting a leader 2 years before the elections. You're going to have a problem with a country thinking that you're only set up for elections to win.
Now, let's go to the bit about changing the party's name from the New Patriotic Party to the National Patriotic Party. Because changing a party's name, of course, is something that can be linked to its fortunes as well. Because you know what the importance that plays in branding. Now, Dr. Asah-Asante, you're changing the party's name from New Patriotic Party to National Patriotic Party. Has there ever been a need for this to happen?
Oh, I believe for that one, I don't support them at all. Because the name, the New Patriotic Party, resonates with the people, and it has done so for a very long time. Unless, of course, there is evidence to suggest otherwise. That will realize that if you go on this tangent, this is the benefit that we're going to be accrued from this. But far from it. The name New Patriotic Party, as I've already said, it's in tune with the things that they do and the people who support them. So I believe that what they need to do is to be able to work and deliver the public good, so that it become part of their records. Mind you, elections are nothing but what? A referendum of your work and then a contest of ideas. So it doesn't matter the name that you assume that much, but what you are able to leave as a legacy.
Okay.
And you'll be able to stand on it to campaign. For me, that is the key. Even though name counts, but especially when you are in government, the name has won you power and you are in office. So what else do you looking for? You now need to work to, let people believe in that they've given you power and you are exercising the power judiciously and you are also delivering the public good. Far anything short of this, I'm afraid, the people will not give you their mandate again. What they need to do is to concentrate on their programs, their manifesto, promises and all that, and work to achieve that. By changing of the name and all that, I don't see any benefit. If there's going to be any benefit, it's going to be something little that is next to nothing.
I'm happy that Dr. Asah-Asante talked about manifestos, because that's where my next conversation is going to. But Dr. Kobi-Mensah, do you think differently? I mean, what would this mean for the NPP if it decides to actually change its name from New Patriotic Party to National Patriotic Party?
Yeah, I think I would actually go the tangent of Asah's position. I mean, name change, especially coming from marketing, coming from branding position, it's a very serious issue. I mean, in corporations, name change is as a result of maybe the brand or the company getting into trouble. Maybe people have dissenting the positions against the brand. The brand has failed to deliver. the brand name is no longer in consonance with people's aspirations. So many other reasons are attributed, to name change, or what we call rebranding, for example. Now, I haven't actually seen any document that actually suggests any of these that I've actually outlined, unless, of course, in the wisdom of those who are proposing it, they think that the party's name has actually assumed a very negative brand connotations as a result of the change. Otherwise, I think it's a very, expensive project to do. It would amount to nothing, like as I just said, unless, of course, they believe that the people of Ghana do not actually subscribe to the new patriotic party's, brand name, and does not resonate with what they think the aspirations are. That is when you think that you want to change. But without that, why do you change it? Especially the idea that it's going to cost you tradition, because you have a number of years of performance under your belt under that particular name. And then, of course, you're actually doing away with. Or it's going to cost you, money, of course. You're going to change your letterhead. So many other things going to change. So I don't think that they really need that. What they need is a very robust program to convince the Ghanaian people that they can deliver. That's what they need.
And to the conversation about manifestos, Dr. Asah-Asante just hit it there, that they should be considering and thinking about what should be going into their manifesto for the next elections, what would actually appeal to the people. I remember the last time we had a conversation on this, Dr. Kobi-Mensah, you suggested that people are beginning to lose trust for political parties because they make so many promises and do not fulfill them. So you suggested that they make realistic promises so that when they come into power, they'll be able to fulfill those promises. Is that one of the things you expect to happen this Sunday?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the last elections, for example, Manifesto, especially with the NDC's People's Manifesto, brought the entire conversation on the manifesto very much at the center of the campaign. In the past, we say that, people don't really look at the manifestos, etc. But in the last election, you realize that the fight was actually on the manifestos. What the MPP was saying, what the NDC was bringing to the people, some innovative ideas, and so people were really keen on it. Now, setting that particular tone means that going forward, we're going to have a huge fight on the manifesto positions, especially when we had accusations and counter-accusations of people having copied or having plagiarized manifestos. So you realize that, yes, we need a very credible, very practical, a very deliverable manifestos going forward. And so that's what I expect the MPP, Congress to actually focus on. How do we make sure that we can have a manifesto of renewal, for example? Manifesto that speaks specifically into people's needs, and that are realistic, because I think the disappointment, according to most Ghanaians, had been too many. And as a result, they would expect that, we get a manifesto that is achievable. So I think that's what they have to actually think about.
Dr. Asah-Asante, we've already mentioned the fact that, usually when parties meet to elect flag bearers and what have you, I don't know if they're going to be agreeing on doing that at this event, but we know there are cracks that will happen that the party needs to amend. We also know that beyond this conference, there are a number of issues the party needs to deal before 2024. What are your expectations in terms of the manifesto you talk about, in terms of the 38 amendments that the MPP itself has put on the table to consider?
I think that you can do all manner of amendments, but if the policy of the party, that is the manifesto, you are not able to put it into practice and let people have a feel of what you had on the paper when you were campaigning, I'm afraid it becomes nothing but a deception, and that you are going to have your fingers bent during election. The concentration must be on the manifesto. You deliver all that you have said. Where you cannot meet, then you explain, and then next time you take a cue from it and you see how you can, promise things of that nature. Quite apart from that, government must also be firm to take very bold decisions, and then also be a listening government. You need to listen to the people. because if you put more emphasis on your program without also bending a little backwards to the people to listen to feedback, I'm afraid you are not going to get your policies right. So all in all, I believe they have a very big tax. They will go along with their, amendments and proposal and whatnot. But the more important thing is that they focus on the manifesto, deliver, and we as a society must also play our role by holding them to account. There is a committee in Parliament called the Government Assurance Committee. We need to get closer to them to see what government promised, whether government has delivered through that desk, so that we'll be able to enlighten our people with the conversation associated with this. After all, vigilance is the price of liberty. More often than not, we give people our vote and we don't ensure that what they tell us before getting power, they do exactly the same. Look at road construction throughout this country, and from 1992 up to date. People construct roads or government, and in no time we are fixing the same road that we have spent so much on. It's simply because we don't take them on. Going forward, I'm looking for a group that will be able to say, look, whatever you have said you do for this constituency or the other, you fail to do. And for that matter, don't come to us for to campaign for any vote. That is the way to go when we want to ensure a good measure for public resources and want to maintain good use of public money. Otherwise, politicians will come and go like birds, but they will leave us with nothing to be able to help us to live a meaningful life. After all, politics is to make society better. So if we cannot play our role to ensure that politicians will be able to deliver to make our society better, then we have failed as a human society, and democracy, we are likely to affect its endurance.
Dr. Kobi-Mensah, if it does happen that they agree to actually elect a flag bearer or a political presidential candidate, I beg your pardon, if they happen to agree on that, it means that very soon the NPP will be electing a presidential candidate to lead them into the 2024. What kind of a person do you suggest they elect to lead the party? We all know the president is not going anymore.
Yeah, I think that the country, if you listen to the tempo, or if you listen to the consensus of people, it's about someone they can believe in. It's about the believability. Now, the reason I'm saying that the believability is that almost all the time, political parties or politicians are known to be deceptive. It is something that people say, they promise, they don't deliver. Now, if we are actually going for the flag bearership race 2 years ahead of time, you want to have a candidate that the people can say, yes, they can trust in, they can believe in. Now, if you're not able to do that, then of course, you're going to have the consequences, because they have heard a lot of things. People have heard so many things. People have actually aspired, people have actually believed in what the parties have said, and yet they haven't actually delivered. So I think the one crucial attribute for a candidate that is possible to wrest the power would be a candidate that can be trusted, a candidate that can be believed in.
I'm grateful
but
for your
time.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Kobi-Mensah.
Yeah, I must say that the 2-year proposal, I think, is a wrong targeting of a reform, to be honest, because it would definitely bring issues to them. If they want to reform, they have to look at the party structures. Who should the power reside? Not necessarily 2 years down the line. It does not actually count whether you would win or not the elections.
I'm grateful for your time, gentlemen. Dr. Kobi-Mensah is a political communication strategist with the University of Ghana Business School. Dr. Asa Asante is a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana. I'm extremely grateful for your time, gentlemen. Now, he quit his job as a policeman because of his fear for guns, but was killed by a gun in the Ablekuma Central constituency on election day, 7th December 2020. That is the story of 30-year-old Ibrahim Ibrahim Abbas, one of the people who died during post-electoral violence last year. At a vigil to honor the memory of the 5 persons who died, the NDC served notice. The party will ensure persons responsible for the killing face the full rigors of the law if it is elected in the 2024 elections. Maxwell Agbagba has the rest of the story.
Scores of NDC party supporters gathered very close to the town council park, holding candles to mourn the persons they describe as martyrs of Ghana's democracy. Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Peter Boamo Tokuno, led the crowd to sing revolutionary songs.
Continue unabated. Some of these souls
Sister of one of the persons killed, Raina to Abbas, crying as she read a speech on behalf of her family. She says the soldier who killed her brother is still a free man. She wants President Akufo-Addo to intervene and ensure he is prosecuted.
He attended Ebenezer Secondary School, where he studied science and excelled. In the year 2012, he enrolled into the police training school and completed to work for the Ghana Police Service. Later, he quit his job due to phobia of guns. He later worked as a security personnel for Rana Motors. Though we were not happy about his decision to quit, we respected his decision. He got married to a beautiful wife named Hawao on 8th November, but met his untimely death on 16th December 2020 after being shot at the Collation Center on 8th December. I'm calling on His Excellency, the President, and the IGP. I know he is doing his best, but his best wouldn't be enough if he can't serve justice to these innocent souls. Some of these souls are breadwinners of their families. Mr. IGP, please bring the perpetrators to book. The military guy who shot my brother is still roaming about freely. Please give us justice.
On display here are the vigil ground pictures of some of the people who died in that post-electoral violence. Prominently featured a 30-year-old Ibrahim Abbas, who comes from this constituency, the Ablekuma Central constituency. Deputy General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, Peter Boamo Tokuno, says they consider these persons as martyrs of Ghana's democracy. And indeed, he says the NDC will institute a day that they would use to commemorate their passing.
We believe that there shouldn't be any single drop of blood after these comrades of us lost their lives in the elections. And we are hoping that our democracy, when it becomes better, it would be an insignia for the sacrifices that they made. So we have decided that we'll institute a day every year to celebrate these martyrs who sacrificed their lives for us to, as it were, keep our democracy going. And we believe that if we are able to celebrate them very well, it will, one, not only motivate our party people to continue to stand firm, to resist the oppressor, as our national anthem enjoins us to do, but also to stand firm and make sure that we hold the oppressor accountable, we hold government accountable, and we hold people who seek political leadership accountable.
Yeah. He also talked about putting up monuments in memory of the people who died. Will that happen?
Yes, certainly. Plans are even far advanced in getting these monuments underway, and I am very optimistic that a year by this time we may most likely, inaugurate or unveil the monuments for this gentleman, at our party office. We are looking at our party office, but we will look at other convenient locations as well, so that as a nation we can celebrate these heroes who have laid down their lives to protect our democracy. It is very sad. We don't need to be demanding justice. When the NDC do shot in broad daylight, when there have been videos of individuals who perpetrated this heinous crime, we think that it's a blot on the image of this government, and it's a blot on the image of the security services.
So what would the NDC do if it is elected into power?
We have emphasized, and I think that it's important to re-echo, that crime does not have any expiry date. And no matter how long it takes, the NDC is going to launch a full-scale investigation into these heinous crimes, and those who committed the crimes, the perpetrators who committed this crime, will be brought to book. We are very optimistic about that.
Okay.
We're still live on the Pulse, and you can also join the conversation via all our social media platforms. We are on JoyNews on TV. We'll take a break. We'll return with more. Welcome back to the Pulse. Let's get to the rest of our stories. Asante Tunfosa II has rejected a section of the Lands Act 2020 that empowers the citizenry to take chiefs to court to account for land sales. The act puts the traditional authority in a fiduciary role over lands and empowers subjects to demand accountability over the use of proceeds from land sale. But the Asante at a meeting between the Ashanti Region House of Chiefs and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources stated areas under his leadership are exempt in the application of the law. Nana Ojima has more in the following report.
The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Ebujinapo, led a team from the ministry to explain the new Lands Act to the Asanteman Traditional Council. This was at the request of the council. One of the principal issues that came up was the power the new act gives to subjects over the sale of lands. Samuel Ebujinapo explains.
To say Nananom and as tools stand to possess a fiduciary duty. Fiduciary duty in anything.
The chiefs are caretakers of the lands. They hold it in trust, so their subjects can demand accountability even in court.
Subject court say, oh, Sebio, senior Akonyano, Anase Nana, Afaso Odisha Assassino, Kutia Marano, Anase on Cheso Kwaya, a dim Faso, Eba, Emma, and mining. So the fiduciary duty of Nanano, as expressed in this act, it's important that we emphasize on that.
However, the Asante argues otherwise. According to him, the Asante Kingdom has its own systems of accountability over the sale of land, which they hold in trust for his office. He says any suspicion of mismanagement by the Traditional Council is reported to his office for appropriate action. Not all that is printed here is applicable to my jurisdiction. I put chiefs and fetish in charge of the lands. The chiefs are not accountable to any youth. The elders of various chiefs are the people who can call for accountability, and that is when I step in. There is accountability in the kingdom, but not to any individual. The Asante advocates a review of laws regulating mineral resources in the country for purposes of equity in sharing of benefits. Whoever comes to mine in this country must be checked. There is no mechanism to check gold mined from any jurisdiction. This is something we must pay attention to. For Joy News, Nana Yaojima, Kumasi.
Well, legal practitioner Samson Lade Anyanene has been given further clarity about the fiduciary role traditional authorities now play under the New Lands Act.
This law that has been made and as has been praised by people like Lawyer Kwame Jan and justices of the court who have also sought to educate us on, including Justice Dennis J of the Court of Appeal, it started as one of the best for the purposes of ensuring sanity in land administration in this country. Now, the provision in question is actually a re-rendition of the constitutional provision. In Article 36, Clause 8, let me read it. It says, the state shall recognize that ownership and possession of land carry a social obligation, that's the emphasis, carry a social obligation to serve the larger community, and in particular, the state shall recognize that the managers of public stool, scheme, and family lands are fiduciaries charged with the obligation to discharge their functions for the benefit respectively of the people of Ghana, of the stool, scheme, or family concerned, and are accountable as fiduciaries in this regard. Who is a fiduciary? A fiduciary is simply someone who is a trustee, who is holding a property on your behalf. And if you're a fiduciary, you have an obligation to act solely for the person's benefit. So chiefs, as stated in the Constitution, occupants of stools, kings, tindana, family heads, and the rest of them are trustees, and in managing land are fiduciaries. Therefore, they are accountable to the people. So that's all the provision has done, except that in the Lands Act, and you know the Constitution always will deal with the broad strokes, and then the acts that are passed by Parliament will now give further detail and actually provide the sanctions thereof. So the sanction provided is that if you do not perform this obligation of being transparent, being open, being fair, and impartial in making decisions affecting land, then your subjects have the right to take an action to court, or even before that, it could be seen as a criminal situation wherein you could be liable if you are found guilty to pay between 60,000 to 120,000, or you could go to jail, or in addition to the fine, go to jail for between 5 to 10 years.
Samson Lade Anyanene with those explanations. Let's head now to Parliament, where the minority in Parliament say the misappropriation of funds earmarked for the fight against COVID-19 pandemic lends credence to its calls for a comprehensive probe into the COVID-19 expenditure, contributing to the budget estimates for the Health Ministry. Ranking member Kwabena Menta Akando alleged government spent a colossal 107 million Ghana cedis for the purchase of nose masks, 254 million Ghana cedis for the purchase of hand sanitizers, and 197 million for the purchase of tissues. According to the Dwabuso MP, the Health Minister, Gukwajuman Meno, should be summoned to the House over his inability to justify the use of the monies.
Mr. Speaker, upon critical look at the COVID expenditure, I was left with no option than to agree with the people who are calling for a bipartisan probe into the COVID expenditure. Mr. Speaker, we realize that if you check the 2022 budget, about 573.41 million Ghana cedis has been allocated as seed money for recapitalization of development bank. The Speaker, COVID money, when we are going around looking for money to combat COVID, the Speaker, we are using COVID money for recapitalization of banks. The Speaker, I'm struggling to see the correlation between the establishment of the bank against COVID-19 pandemic. The Speaker, again, we looked at the expenditure of about 857.6 million. And some of the items are very, very interesting. Mr. Speaker, I will share a few with this House. Mr. Speaker, we realize that about 107 million Ghana cedis was used to purchase nose mask. 107 million. Mr. Speaker, again, we also realize that about 254 million, and I repeat, 254 million Ghana cedis was also used in purchasing hand sanitizers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the most interesting one, about 187 million was also used in purchasing tissue. 187 million. These are shocking revelations, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, the interesting one. When the Ghana Health Service was educating people for, restriction of movement and what have you, they had spent about 32 million Ghana cedis on conferences and meetings. Mr. Speaker, this is shocking. So, Mr. Speaker, I know that you will agree with me that there should be a proper probe into this matter for us to come to a logical conclusion. Mr. Speaker, again, it must also be put on record that as of the time the agencies were appearing before the committee, we were informed that they had taken delivery of about 13 million doses of vaccines. And out of the 13 million doses of vaccines, what we have procured, what we have bought, what we have used our money for is around 2.7 million doses, which means that about 10 million doses have been given to us free of charge. Mr. Speaker, the interesting aspect is that we were told that we had paid about $147 million to an organization to deliver vaccine to us, and out of the money we were expecting 16.9 million doses, and only 2.7 million doses have been delivered. Which means that, Mr. Speaker, we have about 12 to 13 million doses of vaccines to receive.
Parliamentary correspondent Parker Wilson joins us with more. Parker, what more can you report from Parliament?
Is on suspension for an hour. In fact, the bell has been rung, and members of the House have been asked to return so that business would proceed. Of course, if you hear the background, the bell is being rung again to remind members that there is proceedings and that they have to come and complete the business for the day. Now, most of the sectors, budget estimates for the sectors, have been approved. We can talk about the legal aid, the employment and labor relations, among others. Now, one key issue, Aisha, of course, and I'm sure you are interested in, is about the introduction of the E-levy. Last night, we reported to our viewers that the financial bill accompanying the E-levy has been before the House. It was subsequently referred to the Finance Committee. As I speak to you, I have with me the ranking member on the Energy and Mines Committee and also a member of the Finance Committee, John Jonapon. I'm curious. I mean, I know that the E-levy, the Finance Committee was deliberating on the E-levy, and you are comfortably seated here. What's happening? No deliberation on the E-levy?
Thank you. Like I told you, the minority side is fully prepared. We are ready. We've stated our opposition to the E-levy avenue. Our leader has been very, very articulate. He's been very clear on that. We just finished the Finance Committee meeting. We took two agreements. One loan agreement for the purchase of aircraft for the military's training.
Oh, so you've agreed
training. These are fighter jets for training and protection of Ghana's territorial borders. Second has to do with the World Bank IDA facility for the mining sector. We're expected to consider the E-levy and to determine the way forward. The chairman has just announced that we are unable to take the E-levy today.
What was the reason?
He did not adduce reason. We were there, we were waiting for the officials of the Ministry of Finance. The minority side was fully represented, and we were ready to do justice with the bill. Like I told you, we are opposed to that E-levy, and so that would have reflected at the committee meeting. But unfortunately, the chairman indicated that we're not going to take it. And so officials of the ministry couldn't even attend to the meeting, let alone be interrogated on the E-levy. Parliament is expected, based on our calendar, to rise today.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I mean, so if the E-levy wasn't introduced at the committee, what then happened?
It means that there's no E-levy as far as we speak, because the first reading doesn't bring the bill into force. We need to do a consideration. We need to go through the second reading. We need to go through the third reading. We need to bring all our issues. Those of us opposed to it will canvass against it. And so, as it stands, as far as we are concerned, there's nothing to consider. We are ready to go and deal with it. But if it's not before us, there's nothing we can do.
So the appropriation bill will be passed without the E-levy. Is that the clarity I'm getting from you?
I don't know, but I can tell you that we haven't considered the E-levy. The appropriation has to do with estimate and estimation of the estimate. The E-levy has to do with the revenue side of it.
Right.
And so we're waiting for direction. I'm sure you've heard the bell being rung. When we go to the chamber, I'm sure these issues will be dealt with. We're expected to rise today.
But for you as a member of the Finance Committee, are you done with your work as far as the issues about the budget is concerned?
No, we are not done. Even the appropriation itself, we are yet to consider the appropriation, which will then be brought to the floor. And so we are not done fully yet. But we were prepared for the E-levy. Our ranking member, I don't know what person, led us. But unfortunately, like I said, the chairman announced that we were not able to consider it. So we are ready.
For me, let me get your final reaction to this. I mean, this is a policy that has generated a lot of controversy and interest. The majority caucus in this House has been very clear on the E-levy, indicating that that would help or pushing government achieve a developmental project. So are you surprised that the policy which they've defended in the last few days hasn't been able to put before the Finance Committee?
They should tell you it's a bad policy. That should tell you that this whole E-levy thing is an obnoxious one. Because if it is good, why are they not shepherding it all this while? Why do they want to wait till the very last minute? And today being the day we are rising, even today we are not able to consider this so-called E-levy. If government wants to be cushioned, you don't impoverish the people. You don't take the people through such excruciating poverty and pain. Everything about this E-levy is bad, and that is a fact. They themselves, when you meet them one-on-one, they tell you that, look, it's not the best. And so we want to debate it here so that the people of Ghana will know those who are for the E-levy and those who are against the E-levy. That's why the assurances the minister gave, that they were negotiations. He still presented 1.75. What has changed about the E-levy?
But I'm sure you know that the government is in talks with the telcos to reduce that charge.
So they should reduce it and come and tell us. How much have they reduced it? If they reduce it, they should absorb it and reduce the E-levy. How much have they reduced it? In any case, not all the telcos that charge the amount they are quoting.
So 2%.
Vodafone doesn't charge that amount. And so they should stop misleading people and deceiving people. This E-levy is not good. It's not about even whether the minority wins or loses. It's a principle. It's a principle. That's the most important thing. People tend to think that it's all about voting. Either you win or you lose. Is it proper that you charge 1.75 for all these electronic transactions? It's obnoxious. And some of us must stand firm and say that we are opposed to it. Whether we win it or we lose it, the people of Ghana will see those who are for it and those who are against it in this chamber.
And you say that so government has backed down this E-levy claim.
I don't know. We are ready. The minority side is ready. I have Honorable Jaja here, a man of integrity. I have Honorable Ampim here, a hard-working member of the Finance Committee. Myself, I'm here. All our members are available. And we are ready to push for the ordinary Ghanaian, for the suffering Ghanaian. And that's exactly what we intend doing.
Honorable John Jenapo, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. So, Aisha, that's John Jenapo Yapek Pishogu, Member of Parliament. And he's indicating to us that something interesting happened where the chairman of the Finance Committee has communicated to the members that they are unable to take the E-levy. The question is, has government decided to back down on the introduction of E-levy? I am trying to see if we can get some quick reaction from the majority side of the House, especially those on the Finance Committee. But as I speak to you, I do not see any member of the Finance Committee around because they will be in a better position to give us an appreciation of what's happening on the Finance Committee. Yes, so that is the situation right now, Aisha. So a while ago, you heard the bell being rung. They are still asking and calling for members of the House to return so that they can continue the business of the day. As I speak to you, just about 10 budget estimates are yet to be considered. And when that is done, what it means is that the House would now go on to consider the appropriation bill. That is a summation of the budget estimates. And eventually they will rise. But Aisha, earlier today, there was a question by the Member of Parliament for North Tongue constituency, some of the Black, and many are wondering what's the desire of a Black on those presidential jets. And today there's a question on the cost, and he asked the National Security Minister. In fact, I could sense from the chamber that he was unhappy with the explanation given. Why are we not happy? This is a national security matter. The National Security Minister is clear that you cannot know the cost because it's a matter of national security. How do you respond to that?
The National Security Minister is totally wrong. And you see, this is just another attempt to conceal information from the general public and from the taxpayer whose sweat is being used to support such profligacy. As I pointed out to the Honorable Minister for National Security, I was armed in my hands, and you saw the document, with documentation from Congress, where U.S. Congress knows the cost of President Biden's official travel. And they have always known. U.S. citizens know. Currently, the rate is $206,000 per hour. I also had documentation from the House of Commons. The Brits know the cost of prime ministerial travel, and they even know the cost of royal travel.
But that's what we know.
So for the National Security Minister to come tell us that in the case of Ghana, it is now a matter of national security operational budget, and so it cannot be disclosed. What are they hiding? What are they concealing? I mean, and this is wrong. Look, this is the first time we are hearing this. All along, it has been the Office of Government Machinery. That's why, if you recall, in 2019, we raised concern that the president in 9 months has spent about 60 million Ghana cedis on presidential travel. This is the first time that we are hearing that presidential travels are a matter to do with national security operational budget. So it is just a clear case of concealment, a grand conspiracy not to be accountable, not to be transparent. And we are not falling for this. We are not accepting this.
You wanted answers. He has given you the answers. That has started the matter. I said now he's the National Security Minister. You have no rights. But they won't let us know because it's a matter of national security. Is this the end of the road for some of the people that blackout in your pursuit to ensure transparency in this matter?
It cannot be the end of the road. Look, what is going on? The president continues to charter ultra-luxury aircraft at $14,000 an hour. As I speak to you, the LXDI from Global Jet Luxury is here. Since July, that jet has not been available for others to use. The president has basically monopolize that jet. And it is costing the Ghanaian taxpayer millions of Ghana cedis. Our conservative estimates we have done is that this profligacy, we have spent not less than 15 million Ghana cedis just to satisfy the president's creature comfort. I can assure you that this is not the end of the road. Remember that my colleagues and I have filed a motion asking for a full-scale bipartisan probe. Right. The Honorable Zanato Ajima-Rawlings, James Agaga, so forth, and others. We are going to push that matter. Fortunately, the Speaker has admitted that motion, except that we have not debated it and we have not set up the committee yet. We are going to push strongly that should be done. Now that it is clear that the president who promised to protect the public purse is now hiding under national security operations budget. I mean, a president who told us that he will be transparent with us, he will be accountable. You are engaged in such naked attempt to hide information which is available in other jurisdictions. I am in Ghana, and I know the cost of President Biden's travel, the cost of Prime Minister Boris Johnson's travel. I know even the royal family who don't stand for elections, who are not accountable. I know that they spend 4,800 pounds an hour. And yet I cannot know that of my own president in my own country, where we pay the tax, where we have a presidential jet which is functioning, which is in pristine condition, which can be used for all the destinations the president is using these chartered aircrafts to. So be rest assured that this is not the end of this matter.
Thank you very much, Honorable Samuel Okudza Blakwa is the Member of Parliament for North Tongue constituency. So, Aisha, that is not the end of the road for him. He will push for the full-scale parliamentary probe into this matter.
And we know that they were supposed to rise today. As at yesterday, they were not sure whether they'll be able to rise today. Has that decision been taken?
Well, so the communication has been given to, in fact, I must say that that those who have argued that the House is going to rise midnight, others also say there's a possibility of them sitting through the night to tomorrow morning before they rise. But what we know for a fact, and I have spoken to the leadership of the House, that is the majority caucus, and they have indicated to me that they are certain in their minds that by tomorrow morning, the House will rise, they'll go on recess, go do the festivity, and then they will return the following year to continue with the business of Parliament. So they are confident in their minds that they will be able to finish with the business of the day, and then they can rise and go to their various constituencies and celebrate the Christmas with their constituencies.
All right, Packard Wilson is our man in Parliament. We'll bring you details of what happens in Parliament in our subsequent bulletins. But in Senate East District, Chief Executive Gasumbe Jeremy Kofi-Jima has blamed the inaction of certain state institutions for the consistent poor showing of his district in the district league table. The 2020 document, which was launched in Accra yesterday, put the Senate East District at the bottom as the least performing district assembly in terms of education, health, and other social issues. Speaking to JoyNews, Mr. Jima said since his assumption of office in October this year, he has had to petition the roads and education ministries on the needs of the district, but none of his petitions have been heeded too.
Looking at the teacher people's ratio, Senate is still in deficit of teachers. And so when we look at the way other districts have teachers, we don't have that. The reason being that we are in the deprived area, and so when teachers are posted to our district, they round away without paying. Those who were posted, some of them had requested leaving the district because they have other people to help them leave the district. And for that matter, I want to also use this opportunity to approach to the Well Assembly that they should convince the education minister. Because when I came, because of this, I had 3 discussions with him. I went to his office about 3 times. Yeah. One was the recruitment of teachers within our jurisdiction. So we realized that when teachers are posted from different districts and they come to our district, they don't stay. Before we realize all of them will leave the district. So we have decided to recruit those who have gone through distance education, those who have gone through
Winneba, Cape Coast, and then Jackson around our place. And we submitted a list. So I did a follow-up again. And I had a nice discussion with the Minister of Education, Honorable Adichim. And I want to use this opportunity to plead on your behalf. Use your institution to talk to the minister so that the list that we have given to him, you will consider them. And then I think that when the list is considered, is to have the district, because we have, when you get to Senate, we are surrounded by the Sene River and then the Akosomo River. So we are in U-shape of the district. So when people come to our district, it's difficult for them to say because you have to always cross the river.
Okay.
And then our roads are also deplorable.
The Volta Region Secretariat of the Food and Drugs Authority has warned that food vendors who fail to acquire the necessary certifications won't be allowed to do business. This initiative is geared towards ensuring that food vendors meet requirements and comply with the health measures to curb the outbreak of communicable diseases.
The Food and Drugs Authority in the Volta region, under the leadership of the Regional Director, Gordon Akurugu, embarked on a sensitization exercise in the regional capital of Ho. Food vendors were educated on the need to acquire certification before engaging in business. They were also advised to operate in a hygienic environment to ensure their safety and that of their clients. Mr. Akurugu detailed the objectives of the No Street Vending Permit, No Business campaign.
For Food and Drugs Authority, as a regulator, mandated by the Public Health Act 851, to ensure the safety and quality of food products. As part of executing our mandate, we collaborated strongly with environmental health of the District Assembly in the region to sensitize food vendors, street food vendors. This is a project dear to the heart of FDA, the CEO, and all management. It's a job that is being done by environmental health officers, where as a collaborator and support, we want to ensure that regulation of food and drugs should go to the grassroots, not necessarily the restaurants, the top bar operators, other big restaurants. No, the main objective is no street food permit, no business. That is just the objective. But regulation should not be forced. Regulation should not be policing. Regulation should gear towards compliance.
Stella Kumejuru is the Volta Regional Environmental Health Officer.
And this is not a one-stop something that we are doing. It is an annual event. The permit, the certificate is supposed to be renewed yearly. For the certification, before we certified a street food vendor, we are looking for certain things. We screen for hepatitis B, we screen for typhoid, we screen for helminthic diseases. Those are some of the diseases that are communicable, that are foodborne. And so when we screen and we realize that a vendor is infected with those diseases, we do not stop there. We do not ask you to stop your business, but we further refer you to a healthcare facility, get yourself treated, and come back into business. By so doing, we are saving the life of that vendor. Most vendors that we screen are not aware that they are infected with those sicknesses, but after the screening, they get to know they are treated and they continue with their business.
Some vendors were issued with certificates and Veronica buckets, while the FDA hopes all other vendors operating in its jurisdiction would comply and acquire certifications. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Oh.
Studio in Accra. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. We'll take a break on the Pulse. There's more when we return. And as we count down to Christmas, we ask what the significance of the dominant red and green colors are for you this season. Tasha Michelle has been finding out.
Christmas means different things for different people. The season invokes love, love to give and love to receive. Gifts change hands in hampers and boxes, wrapped mostly in bright red and green colors, screaming to be noticed. From Christmas trees to ornamental pearls, these colors can barely be missed. But do they actually get noticed?
We have seen that thing as kids. Even the Father Christmas itself is putting on red and white. So that kind of, let's say, mental intel has already been put on us. So we really don't have any reason for that. But it's based on what they project out there. So then we do the same thing in here. So there is no big explanation for that.
I don't have idea about those things. So it depends the way you want the place to be. So that's why maybe me like this, I want orange. I will use orange. Somebody will like green. She will use green and some things to do it, and it will be nice.
One by one, almost everyone we spoke to had close to no idea what these colors mean when they come wrapped all over the gifts. But the symbolic red and green Christmas colors mean more than just their names. CEO of Think Mahogany Events, Deborah J. Nelson, explains.
Why green and red? These are the traditional Christmas colors that we all know about. So for several years, red and green are associated with Christmas. Now, let me take it from the religious perspective, the Christian perspective. Green represents the everlasting life of Christ. Red represents the blood he shed on the cross when he was crucified, the day he died on earth. That is why we have red and green as Christmas colors, and this has been going on for traditions. You would find that we add gold, we add white, and we add blue. Gold represents the presence of the three wise men presented to Jesus Christ when he was born. Blue represents the robe that Mother Mary wore, which represents wealth. And white represents purity, the purity of Jesus Christ. In Ghana, a lot of brides would come, oh, I want hot pink, I want fuchsia. That is magenta. History outside of the Christ part of Christmas. So why red and green? Let me take you back to 1930. Why green and red for Christmas? I'm not trying to advertise for Coca-Cola here, but it is because of Coca-Cola, unfortunately. Americans associated Christmas red and green to Coca-Cola because in 1930, a very famous illustrator, cartoonist, came up with an ad which they showed from 1930 through to 1964. That's 34 years of advertising. That's almost 3.5 decades of an advert. Wow. That's like half. In fact, that's almost my age of an advert. So it has so much impact on that 3 generations, I would say. So this cartoonist came up with an advert when Coca-Cola approached him to come up with a Santa Claus advert for Coca-Cola. He drew Santa Claus wearing the Coca-Cola red, Admis green, drinking Coca-Cola and sharing gifts to children. And that stayed in the minds of Americans for 34 years. You find that we use stars in Christmas decor. Star represents the new star in Bethlehem. And then we also use doves in Christmas decor. Door represents the peace that comes with Jesus Christ. Now, let me add one thing. I said I'll talk about 4. Let me add the 5th one. Lights. What do lights represent during Christmas? It's not about the glam. Lights represent the light that comes with Jesus Christ. That is why we have lights during Christmas.
There are more colors, and each means something different. Deborah J. Nelson again.
But recently we've added different colors, especially white, gold, silver, purple, and this year in particular, the Christmas colors are magenta and blue are the colors. Now, what you'd find is that every year Christmas, there's a hint of different color. Brown is actually a tone that is added to every Christmas decor. Brown and bronze, especially in the Western world. You'd find that they add snowflakes as well. and silver for the glitz. So this year, blue and magenta is the color. Blue for the cooling, and blue from Mother Mary as well. Magenta because magenta is one of this year's colors.
So yes, they may have become conventional colors that go with the season, but inherent in them are the secret visual triggers for Christmas. Tasha Michelle's reports for JoyNews.
And that should put you in the Christmas mood already. We'll take a break on The Pulse and we'll bring you the very latest from the sports world.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the JoyNews Pulse. With me, Oriku Wampofo. The 2021 Swag Awards takes place at our Accra International Conference Center much later today. Here are the 4 nominations ahead of the event tonight. So for Sports Personality of the Year, we have Ghana's relay team that represented the country at the Tokyo Olympics earlier this year. And then Samuel Techi, who won a medal for Ghana in the boxing event, amateur to be specific. And then Daniel Efriye-Banier of Heart of Folk. Foreign Footballer of the Year, Daniel Amate of Leicester City, Mohamed Kudus of Ajax, and then Jonathan Mensah of Columbus Crew. Home-based Footballer of the Year, Jawisi Taylor, Karela United, Daniel Efriye-Banier of Heart of Folk, and then Ismail Gani, Asante Kotoko. For Female Footballer of the Year, Constance Ajiman of Bury Ladies, Janet Ejiri of Hazakas Ladies led them to 5 trophies this year. And then Jafar Rahama, who started the year out with Northern Ladies, but later joined Hazakas Ladies. Coach of the Year, we have Abdul Karim Zito, who had a successful year with under-20s, winning the Africa Cup of Nations earlier in the year. We have Christian Insia, who was also the athletics coach for the team that went to Tokyo, and Heart of Folk coach Samuel Bwedu, winning the domestic double, the FA Cup and League with Heart of Folk. Oforia Sari, who was also the boxer, the coach of the boxing team that brought gold from the Tokyo Olympics. And then Yusuf Basigi, he was also head coach of Hazakas Ladies, who won 5 trophies in the calendar year. For Athlete of the Year, we have Benjamin Azamati and Joseph Paul Amwa, both of which were in Tokyo for the Olympics to represent Ghana. And then Female Athlete of the Year is just Deborah Akwa. Professional Boxer of the Year, we have Alfred Lamte, Mohamed Aite, and then John Abaja Lai. For Boxer of the Year Amateur, we have Samuel Tichi, who is in the featherweight division. SWAG's top 5, that's the discipline rank shortlist. We have athletics, amateur boxing, badminton, chess, and the others. As Discovery of the Year sees Constance Awajiman, football, plays for Bury Ladies. Fatawi Sahaku, who moved from Steadfast to Dreams, also won under-20. And then Kamaldeen Suleimana joined Stadren from Nordjylland this year as well. And then we have Uniles Techi for swimming. Administrator of the Year, we have Evelyn Intiasari, who's the CEO of Hazakas Ladies, George Oko Lamte, Ghana Boxing Federation, and then Gifty Owaria Boajo of Bury Ladies. SWAG President Award would be going to Ken Bediako. Corporate Award would also be going to Betway Ghana. And then Lifetime Achievement Award would also be awarded to Stephen Appiah. Dedication and Valor would be going to Coach Ofori Asare, amateur boxing coach. We have lawyer Nto Fianko and then Odro Nyako. Before we go, let's do some Ghana Premier League fixtures as the league resumes this weekend, and Heart of Oak would be high in confidence after picking their first win of the season. They will be at home against Accra Lions as 11 Wonders welcome BBN Gold Stars. Ashanti Gold will look to bounce back from defeat against Ediana last week as they face Accra Great Olympics. Ken Faisal versus Dreams FC would be eyeing a spot at the top when these two teams do clash. Royal Tamale United, off the back of that 1-1 draw against Asante Kotoko, would be confident in Tamale against Elmina Sharks. Legon City struggling under Maxwell Kennedy this season. They face Asante Kotoko, whose fire seems to have died down a bit after their quick start early in the season. Ediana Stars would look to continue their good form and become the first team to win 6 games in a row when they face Berekum Chelsea. Wafa, just 1 victory so far this season. They face Mediama as Karela United would be at home against Bechem United. Well, let's now take a look at the standings in the Ghana Premier League ahead of the fixtures and know where each team stands. And in terms of that, Ediana Stars, after what has been the perfect resurgence, 5 wins out of their last 5 games, has seen them climb up to the top of the table alongside Ken Faisal, who've also started the season strongly. Asante Kotoko have lost their place at the top, winless in their last 3 games, sits third with 14 points, level on points with Dreams FC. And remember, Asante Kotoko still have a game in hand against Accra Heart of Oak. Bechem United and Great Olympics complete the top 6. In terms of the bottom 6, newly promoted side, Accra Lions still lingering around in 13th place with 8 points. Legon City struggling so far, 7 points, and are just 1 point above the relegation zone, which includes Heart of Oak, 11 Wonders, and Wafa. But Heart of Oak themselves have 3 games in hand. Well, we've done a quarter of the season so far, and this is how the overall statistics do look. With 69 matches played so far, goals scored is 142. We've seen almost half a century of wins, 29 draws, 36 home wins, 13 clean sheets, and then 13 away wins and 51 clean sheets, currently averaging more than 2 goals per game. Well, so it's another weekend of Ghana Premier League action, and we'll be right here to bring you all the updates as well as the goals do fly in. You can follow us on social media at Joy Sports GH as we bring you updates of these games as well. You can get match reports and previews to the weekend action on my Joy Online /sports. My name is Uri Kwampofo, and that's how we wrap up for the sports live here on the JoyNews Sports.
And that's where we draw the curtains on the Pulse this afternoon. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for watching. I've indeed enjoyed my almost 2 hour stay with you. Up next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.